a tropical storm that have flooded Providenciales. So I do not want persons to take it easy thinking it's just a tropical storm. No. We have to prepare and prepare as if we're expecting a Category 5 storm. The place will flood. We know this. But there are steps we can do to ensure we protect our lives, our family, and our property. If you do not need to be on the road, do not go on the road because just a few inches of rainfall can wash your vehicle away or it can sweep you off your feet. We may have down power lines and do not know this. So you can get electrocuted trying to cross and through the water. So that is a no-no, and we are encouraging persons to stay home and allow the first responders, those who need to be on the road, to do so. We have a list of areas that are prone to flooding throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands, and the list is not complete. We're constantly updating it based on new areas that are flooded, based on development that are taking place. Right? So for Provo, we have Blue Hills, we have Five Keys, we have Downtown, Q-Town, The Bight, Grace Bay, Leeward, and Long Bay, parts of those areas. In Grand Turk, we have Waterloo, Palm Grove, West Road, Cockburn Town, Beck Salina, Overbeck, North Creek. Side Caicos, we have the town or the flat area, we have Airport Road, and we have Old Airport Road. North Caicos, we have Q, Whitby, Sandy Point, Battle Creek. Middle Caicos, we have the northern parts of Kongba, we have Bambara, and Lorimer. And in Salt Key, we have North and the South District. Like I said, the areas prone to flooding and TCI is constantly changing. And that is why after a storm or heavy rainfall, Team DDME usually go out there, do our surveillance, measure the water height or depth, take pictures so that it can inform new risk or new flooding maps going forward. So when you see us on the road, it is not a signal that the country is open or it is safe to do so. We have been trained to go in these flood-prone areas to collect the information to inform future deployment or shutdown or activation as necessary. For this hurricane season, we have a list of shelters. However, the list is not complete. The list is subject to change. We can increase the number of shelters as well as we can decrease them. Factors that inform this tend to be the characteristic of the storm. If it's a wind maker versus if it is a rain maker. So we take those factors into consideration. For Tropical Cyclone 9, the list I'm about to read is for specifically that event. For Salt Key, we have the Clubhouse, Grand Turk, Ona Glenton Primary School, and the Eliza Simons Primary School. Side Caicos, New Testament Creole Ministry, and the New Community Center. North Caicos, Q Community Center, and the Lighthouse Church in Battle Creek. Middle Caicos, Mount Moriah Baptist Church. Providenciales, we have All Saints Mission Church, which is on Leeward Highway, New Testament Church of God, Millennium Highway, Wesley Methodist High School, Jericho Baptist Church, and Enid Capron Primary School. Should Tropical Cyclone 9 continue to threaten the Turks and Caicos Islands and requires the activation of shelter, these are the shelters that we will be opening. The list is also on DDME website and Facebook, so they are accessible. In terms of the Tropical Cyclone 9, It's forecast to become a tropical storm tonight or early Wednesday morning, which is tomorrow. It is expected to produce heavy rains, which is potentially life-threatening. Most persons are perhaps looking at the track and are making some assumption. What I would like to remind persons is that rainfall and the wind hazard will extend far from the center of the system. So should the system shift, whether shift north or south, and the Turks and Caicos is no longer within the cone, it does not mean it's an all clear for us, because wind and rain will extend very far from the center of the system. Another point I wish to make is that the storm is unpredictable. That's all what the scientists are saying. It's unpredictable. Because the forecast more often uncertain than this one here. It does not have a well-defined center, which is making it difficult for them to predict. However, what is consistent based on all the models we are looking at is that it will bring some rainfall and wind impacts to the TCI. And that is of 5 o'clock today. That could change by the 8 p.m. or the 11 p.m. forecast. So that is why it's important to continue to monitor the DDME website and social media platforms for updated information. At 5 p.m. today, the system was located 14.4 degrees north longitude and 55.9 degrees west. In terms of TCI, it was located 1,121 miles southeast of Grand Turk. This is a very fast-moving storm. It was moving at 23 miles per hour. So currently, we're expecting the system to be over us early Thursday morning for the whole day, and by late Thursday evening to early Friday to moving more central Bahamas. That was the prediction at 5. It can slow down, it can speed up, so things can change overnight. Right? The system is expected to produce anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rainfall. So this is what we need to prepare for. Persons in low-lying areas are being encouraged to move to higher ground. Persons whose homes they're not 100% confident about can withstand a tropical storm, we're asking you to shelter with family and friends. So your first shelter option is your home. If that is not a possibility, is not an option, then seek shelter with family and friends. If you absolutely cannot seek shelter with family and friends, and your home is not able to withstand a tropical storm, then seek shelter at an official government facility, which I've already called earlier. When you come to the shelter, there are rules and regulations that you will be guided by. And all persons are expected to adhere to this. Come with your kit. Your emergency kit must not only have your traditional medication that you would have taken, but now you're expected to include hand sanitizer, to include your gloves, to include your mask. You may need an overall. You have to take these things with you. Yes, we will try to provide them, but you could never have too much. So walk with your own supplies. In the shelter, we will be practicing social distancing as far as possible. And we are expecting persons to adhere to the rules and the regulations. The rules and regulations are also on our Facebook and social media, and they are being translated in Creole and Spanish, and they're going to be shared with all the radio stations to ensure that everyone who intend to use the shelter, they are aware of the rules and regulations. Right? In terms of backup emergency communication, we have satellite phones, and they are operational, so we will be able to communicate. Drainage system has been cleaned, and it's an ongoing process. And so we'd like to encourage persons at this stage to ensure that you properly dispose of your garbage, because this tends to be an issue, clogging the drains and affecting flooding. Persons who are constructing, we often find a lot of silt in drains near them. This also leads to flooding. So we're appealing to the general public. Response to hurricane is a whole country approach. We need individuals, we need the residents, we need the private sector and government to all play their role to ensure that if we are threatened, if we have to respond, that we can do so effectively, and recovery will be early and smooth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Virginia. We appreciate you taking the time to update us on the pending storm, which possibly may hit us on Thursday. So thank you, Madam Premier, for inviting Dr. Virginia with you. For those who are watching, this is a special sit-down with the Premier. However, she is not on yet. We had Dr. Virginia on updating us on the storm and the different locations where you could go in case you need a place to go to. That's very informative, and you have a website, you say, as well, right?
Yes.
You can go to the website.
It's www.gov.tc/DDME. In fact, if you just Google DDME, not only will our website come up, our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything will come up.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. We'll now start our sit-down with the Honorable Premier. One-on-one, I just want to say to those viewers out there, you also have an opportunity to call in another half an hour or so. You can call in with any questions you have, and the Premier is here to answer your questions. Okay? Honorable Mayor, thank you again for being on the show. I know yesterday you had a press conference and you talked about the major variance between the revenue.
Can I say something before I go?
Sure.
I just want to reiterate to persons the importance of listening to the information that DDME has put out. I don't want us to take for granted the flood-prone areas. Sometimes people think they can stay there. More than anything, I want you to look to see if you are in a flood-prone area and respond. Again, DDME is the official voice and the official site. It is coming fast, it's coming furious. We don't know what it will bring, but we do know that it has water in it already. So I just want persons to really be on their guard here in Turks and Caicos.
Thank you. You mentioned on the press conference yesterday, the big gap between the budget and the actual. What plans are the TCIG plan to close that gap?
Well, we only reported on the first quarter because we're really just in the beginning of the year. No government, I think, at this point will make any major decision, because we have 3 more quarters to go. And everybody's fingers crossed, hoping by December you see some pickup in your season. But right now, as I said yesterday, we've done a withdrawal warrant. Our deficit was not as wide as we thought it would be. Our revenues are down almost 50%. But we did have excess revenues that will come from statutory bodies that are required to pay them over to government at the end of the financial year. So the withdrawal warrant allows us to reduce spending. You will see in the House late next week some capital projects shifting in terms of going up in cost and trying to make sure we deliver on them. But what you will see by the second quarter is a full supplementary that would allow us to reorganize. Again, these figures are, the economy was closed. We gave a whole lot of concessions. The first quarter is really not the quarter to look at because we waived a lot of licenses. We gave concessions. The economy was closed. The local economy was closed. So we're not going to bank so much on the first quarter, but it's important to let persons know where we are.
Yeah, but even for the second quarter, we might still have issues because
In the second quarter we will have issues.
yeah, because we see beaches not opening until October, which will be the beginning of the third quarter, and beaches obviously links.
But again, I don't want people to be as paranoid because beaches normally closed during the summer. It's only within recent years, under the former administration, when they gave the 500,000 that said towards the marketing. So this is usually our slow period. This is usually the slow period for government. We're going to be doing one or two things that stimulate. We're going to bring back the stamp duty concessions to allow persons to do more now. We're going to look at what other concessions we can do to spur activity. But we're also, in terms of the island economy itself, we're pushing our capital program forward in small contracts.
Okay, so you're saying you're going to extend the stamp duty?
We can't extend it, expire, so we're going to do a new program on it.
Oh, a new program.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So we'll do other things. Government isn't bringing in, but again, the whole idea of doing things that spur and spark the economy is that you wouldn't get this anyway. So you're just looking at what else you can do.
Right. Are there any consideration on any reduction in salaries? I mean, as part of the closing the gap?
Reduction with salaries.
Civil servants
No.
and
Why does that
ministers.
question keep coming up?
And ministers.
No, we're not going to cut salaries. The one thing that we said in the budget, one thing economists tell you is government can't, and it should be the very last thing for government to stop spending. That's the one organization that must keep the economy going.
So you have enough. So basically, you have enough cash flow to cover it so far.
I have enough cash flow in the foreseeable 2 or 3, 4 months.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, with the local economy, we'll see what happens there.
Okay. And then for the capital projects you mentioned earlier, we will see a shift. Does it mean you're pushing things up or?
No. I say increase. I say you'll see the shift because you'll see increase. For example, a number of school projects. We know the Cedar Jolly was all but like Ira Stubbs Primary, only to build a new school. And then we have a new primary school for Long Bay High, which would have lost time when we had the country closed. So we're going to be increasing funding to fast track those projects. So I said that because I did say to the country that we'll be bringing a supplementary. But that is not the supplementary that I was speaking to in terms of reorganizing. But right now we're doing some shifts in the capital program to deliver on current critical capital projects that's going on.
And that will help stimulate.
That will definitely, it is definitely stimulating. What we have, Mr. Seymour, is a number of contractors. So government have over 80 projects that are ongoing, either at the contract stage to be completed this year or next year. So we have quite a bit of, in our cash, we have about 30 plus million alone from previous years. And then, of course, this year we have about 30 plus million in projects. So it's about 60 million government is doing itself in capital programs.
Okay. Now, one thing, I mean, with capital projects, I've always bothered me, Madam Premier, is that not only capital projects, is that it's open to anyone to bid on. You don't have to be in the Turks and Caicos Islands, as long as you are in that. You could bid on a job. Is that something the government is reviewing?
Well, the government goes with the best price. Personally, I would always lean towards the person that's paying national insurance, NIB, and providing jobs in Turks and Caicos. But sometimes the prices government get, you'd love to, but I wouldn't say that about accounting officers. You just can't. The budgets are just so way out there at times that when people hear government, they like triple the price. And that's what has been the problem most of the time.
Yeah,
now, we do appreciate the landing, and we always make allowance for that, so you'll see where we lean there, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes the prices are just not affordable.
Yeah, well, sometimes too, our local suppliers are competing with their supplier as well. For example, say they want to get some vehicles. They may contact the vehicle supplier in the United States who's also bidding on the job.
We've been giving, I don't know of any vehicles that we've
Not
given.
just an example.
Yeah, because it used to be sometimes like that. But I know that's one program for sure where we've been using local dealers.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's it for the economy from my point of view right now.
Really? As an accountant?
Yes.
Pray over those finances for us. You hear us talking about hurricane today? I mean, I want people to appreciate, your situation with finances. Gosh, I don't think a lawyer would ever think there'd be a minister of finance. But you learn so much. But the thing is, when government isn't making money, when people aren't making money, government isn't making money. And I think we really have to spend some time teaching people how our economy is and how dependent we are and what we need to be doing to change that. So I'm really big in diversification. I'm really big in making sure that people understand that there are new and fresh things that we have to be doing. Hence, you would know that even the investment policy statement that we introduced, that we haven't properly rolled out as yet, but we've been spurring development along those lines to make sure we diversify as much as we possibly can. So the financial services sector, my baby, and most people hear me talk about that quite often. Though it's not under a minister, I think when Washington Mizik would have been the Minister of Finance, BVI and the other territories took financial services. The governor got financial services here. We are the regulator, but this government has done quite a bit in terms of financial services. We've done a complete review that was done by KPMG. We've got someone actually at InvestTC that is actually working with the working group that I appointed. The chair of that working group is Mr. David Stewart, and we have a number of Turks and Caicos analysts, of course, that's serving on that, and as well as we've already looked at recommendations from that review and how we can implement them. Of course, there's concessions, looking at it for scholarships and making sure our people go into that sector. So I really want to take the opportunity to promote that sector to Turks and Caicos Islanders. So it is a industry that we absolutely must grow. It's an easy second. It's private sector driven. Government gives concessions. Government gives policies and create laws that make it go.
And the good thing about the Financial Services Commission, financial services industry, is that, we'll be unimpacted by storms.
Correct.
The tourism will be impacted by storms. But so, as I mentioned on my show earlier on the Financially Speaking, and I know you have a board in place, but don't you think that we should look at having a full-time, because the Financial Services Commission is a regulator. I think we need I know you say someone at InvestTCI is working with the working group. I think we need a full team, a paid full team dealing with the Financial Services Commission.
In which way?
Like, have a committee, say 5 or 6 people dealing with the marketing, dealing with the promotion, and just dealing with financial services in order for it to grow.
That's where we fell in the 90s when, to be honest, when I was in BVI in 1999, 2000, Turks and Caicos was further than them. They did that.
In BVI?
Yeah.
In BVI?
BVI just saw past us in the 2000s. Under Derek Taylor's administration, we started to do some work there. But it's an industry that really needs attention. And the attention it needs from government more than anything is legislation and concessions that make it attractive. So when we create a product and create a niche, we have to make sure that the government supports that.
And money to market it.
Well, remember, it's private sector driven, so the private sector got to put their part in it too. Because at the end of the day, government, no matter what, will be the regulator. And it helps us in terms of marketing, because right now we get excess monies from the financial services. The more they make, the more we make. But that's, again, the indirect monies that are coming from the private sector with the creation of jobs and all these other things. It certainly stabilizes an economy. So when people look at Cayman Islands and say what Cayman Islands is doing, they got a huge financial services sector. What is saving BVI even after the 2 storms is the financial services sector. And so it's an easy one for us to build. And that's why we would spend well over $400,000 or $500,000 in trying to get us there.
Yeah, because BVI, I think the GDP is on financial services like more than 55%. Whereas that's tourism, is on that.
That's the way to go.
Now, in terms of the stimulus package, can you share? I know you mentioned yesterday. Do you know exactly when everyone that's applied or qualified for the stimulus package will be paid from the first set, or has it already been paid?
No, I get progress reports from those that are administering it in the Ministry of Finance. There's about 500, I think, under the employee. The business one only would have started the 1st of June.
Yes.
The uptake for that, we've paid, I can't remember the exact figures, like probably about 300 or so.
Yeah.
Yes. So many figures are in my head. So that is ongoing. Nothing stops it until people qualify. So if there's additional documents that are required, we're going to keep it going until we get the documents. And what we've done in terms to help close the employee one is we've actually started engaging the employer to help us to get them to do what needs to be done in order to finish that up.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that will help expedite the process.
That's how we've been able to speed up the last set of payments. But we were averaging like 700 payments a week.
And then out of how many applications? About almost.
That one.
I think you had said 13,000 initially.
Oh no, that's about 3,000. That was duplications.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
10.
So we've done about 7.1 million in payments, and so just divide that by 1,200, and that will tell you the number. But we've done 7.1 already out of the monies that we had allocated.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that the economy is off to a slow start because no one expected COVID-19 to last this long. Are there any plans in place to do another package?
For the sectors that were impacted outside of the hospitality. Remember when we would have done that, that was a hospitality sector.
Yes.
Part one, because we would have closed the borders. Of course, not long after we closed the local economy.
Right. So
we
everyone's
definitely,
affected.
exactly. So as I've said over and over, we have to compensate those persons remember the self-employed was not just hospitality. Any self-employed person could have applied. So we expanded that category from the beginning.
For the business grant.
For the self-employed under the business grant, right? But the employee was hospitality. So now we're going to look to do a second stimulus for all the sectors outside of hospitality, if I can put it that way.
Right. But that's great. But the problem is we still have a lot of people in the hospitality now who are still unemployed because we were hoping that they would have been working by now. And so that'll be another issue on hand we have, where people are still not getting an income.
Those who are unemployed, for God's sake, I beg you, please register with labor. Because you do have persons, and please go to labor and state your case, if I can put it that way. Because I think a number of persons are unemployed but still holding on, if I can put it that way. They haven't gotten termination letters, so they can't go and file as unemployed. So what we have in Turks and Caicos is a serious underemployment issue. We know that there are hundreds of people that employers have said to us that we've terminated, but that doesn't even reflect in the Labor Department stats. People are just not emailing or coming in or anything to say that they're unemployed. But for those persons, we want to create a program for them. But we're going to create a program based on the numbers that we have. And that's why I need people so we can understand what the exact position is. But I think a lot of people would appreciate that a number of people are holding on to a job. They've not been terminated, but they've been put in what we call furlough. Mm-hmm. And they effectively have no income. So we still don't know what those numbers look like. Even though the employers give us a bit of information, it's still a contractual one. And we need persons to come in.
So those persons on furlough, they could register as well, even though.
No, that's what I'm saying. Our problem is underemployment as opposed to unemployment.
Okay.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Yes. Now I know there was a lot of opposition to the opening of the borders on July 22nd. People were concerned about the health. They were concerned about the viruses coming into the country once you open the borders. We've opened the borders now on July 22nd, and today is the 28th. What progress have you seen so far? What have you heard about the number of visitors that arrived, the number of cases? I understand there's one case so far that was detected positive. Can you give us an update on that?
So yesterday I announced we did 1,047 persons in 20 flights, American Airlines and Delta. We did 52 private jets at the FBO. So we've had a slow start, which is what we need to perfect our protocols. I want people to be realistic about this. You don't want that mad rush. If you look at the Caribbean, well, actually, Turks and Caicos should brag, and we could boast, because a number of the countries that started out way liberal are now coming to our position of needing the test before you come in, right? So a number of them. We keep getting the complaints that 5 days is not enough. That is not true. People can access it. You pay to access it, but we have, as with any crisis, businesses do pop up to serve. So you have labs around the United States, in particular Florida, that are just testing for travel purposes. So you're paying for it, but again, it's a service that is still accessible. So we have welcomed 1,047 persons inbound and about 262 left. Of course, some of those were Turks and Caicos Islanders, but our large resorts, major resorts, the majority of them are open. Of course, you would know that beaches is not opening till mid-October. So I think we've done well. I can tell you the Caribbean leaders that look and go like, how did you get all those jets? And probably that's the way to go in the future, but it doesn't impact the economy as much in terms of the provision of jobs and people moving around. But it is a vibrant part of our economy that is absolutely growing.
And it's a start.
It's a start.
Can you tell us?
But
okay.
let me say this, because health has always been at the forefront. Health has always been at the forefront. And our position in delaying the opening of the borders to make sure there are certain things that were available in country. That's important, especially our in-country testing more than anything, so that when we have what we had, an investigation ongoing where tourist comes in with inadequate health documents, asymptomatic, we can test and we can isolate. There's beauty in that. So immediately you don't stop that tourist from going all around and exploring. Now you can actually isolate, quarantine and test. So people are nervous about the virus coming in, but as I've said from day one, and as everyone tells you, it's a sneaky little devil. It's been here. And you find the majority of the tests that we're even doing are asymptomatic persons. Asymptomatic persons or contacts are positives. And then some that, that are just not connected. But at the end of the day, we have to learn to live with it. You cannot, I'm not going to be reckless and say, a couple of people have to die off. That's not what I'm saying. And so a person said, you might as well say that. That's not what I'm saying. The protocols are literally in our hands. And we have to learn to live with it. We don't know when it's going away. You can't stay closed forever. And you have to test your protocols, perfect your protocols, and get a feel of what it is, knowing that this is a new normal and you have to do things differently.
And we don't have to die. if we cover our face, we use the mask.
90%,
wash our hands,
more than 90% of the people who contract COVID around the world recovers. We don't know much.
The media doesn't say that, though.
No, the media like the death toll. Okay? But we don't know much. But we know the mask works. We know social distancing works. And we know there are simple things at home you do with, if you feel your throat itchy. It's a virus. It's a flu. It's when you ignore it and allow it to get into your lungs, that's when it gets difficult. Right? But I don't want to trivialize it, but I want people to understand it's literally in our hands. We have to learn to live with it. We can't stay closed for something that we knew was out there anyway.
Right. You mentioned earlier about inadequate health.
No, you're not going to get me go there. That's investigations.
Okay.
I
just want to know why would someone be allowed to come to the country if they have inadequate health?
They would have that report.
Okay, so once the report comes, so then we'll know more.
Absolutely, the public must know and must be told. I believe in transparency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Point taken.
Yes.
We'll wait to hear that.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll get the results this week, hopefully.
Well, I'm sure. It's not that huge an investigation, 1 or 2, but you just have to make sure you understand it. But I am very proud, honestly, that our protocols worked.
Yeah. Now, I've always supported the opening of the borders. I've made that known publicly. I have never,
Okay.
I've never, that's not a secret.
Okay.
I wrote articles on it. I've made that known. In fact, I think we should open from June.
Yeah.
But the only issue I have, Madam Premier, Honorable Premier, is I believe that we should do testing upon arrival because of the 5-day testing. What do you say about that? No.
That's importing the problem. Because
no, you do both. You still have the individuals take their tests, and when they arrive,
okay,
we do another test when they.
That's wonderful. If we had the consumables, if we had the manpower, if you have that lab up to where it need to be. Now, at the end of the day, we haven't done as much expanded testing as we want. The consumables for a lab is like scarce gold right now. So you want to focus on testing your front line, your critical people here in Turks and Caicos, and your frontline workers who shift now to hotel workers, and all of, within your country. Maybe we'll get there, but it wouldn't be right now. Because we have to really focus on, when we have an outbreak like this, right? You see what our quarantine numbers look like? We're testing those people. So there goes your consumables just like that. There goes your testing just like that. So
how many testing do you have? How many consumables do you have? Do you know?
I don't know. But I'm saying, when I say consumables, you have so many swabs and so much.
All the different.
Yeah,
inputs.
all that stuff. You and I don't know the details of that. But how quickly that will go on thousands of visitors. We have to think about that.
Yes, but why can't we use the private medical facilities?
I am working really hard on getting, I think we're at the very end of the road on the private facility. It's a part of government strategy. The more private labs come, the better.
Yeah, that'll take a
Absolutely
load of
help.
the capacity from
Absolutely.
the Turks and Caicos
Correct.
Islands government.
That's right. That's
And
right.
then the local residents probably could even get them do more assessing
Correct.
themselves, and hopefully National Health
Because
could
some
pay for that.
places residents will want to travel require testing, and again they're behind government's line. You know, we've had some urgent, critical, personal affairs that government has had to be compassionate and say, listen, we have to test you because you need to get where you need to get. You know, so the private lab is very, very critical to the testing and
Yeah,
expanding our
because
testing capacity.
we don't have
Yeah.
enough capacity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think there was a press release that came out from the Ministry of Education. I know she's not here, but can you provide us an update on what you think will happen in September when schools reopen?
Oh wow, it's such an elaborate plan. It's a blended approach. That's
Oh,
all I'll
well,
say.
share it with us.
No, it will be for P.S. Clevo and Honorable Malcolm. They will bringing it to cabinet. They've got a full two-page document following PAHO WHO protocols as well. But as I can say to you, we can't achieve social distancing the way we would want to because our schools are overcrowded. So we are looking at blended online as well as classroom.
But we have a fourth school though, the Long Bay. That's not going to be ready.
What's that?
The Long Bay Primary School.
Yeah, that's one of the capital projects I just told you
Okay.
that we're going to fast track.
Okay.
But again, that's students who are getting into school. That's a lower school.
Primary. Yeah. Elementary.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a challenge. It's. I think I worry more about, although it shows that children under 10 aren't that susceptible, but I'm still worried. You haven't seen your friend for like months, and you already like to hug and share.
Even adults do that.
You understand? I confess. You know. But at the end of the day, it's so scary for the kids. But I saw a video even in China, and I sent it to Honorable Malcolm, where they spray the little children show up in their masks, they spray them down, they go, they spray them. It's like you're making them robotic. But we have to protect them.
Yeah.
And I really worry about that. So the Ministry of Education has gone through some real strict protocols. They presented it to me last week, the PS, the Deputy Secretary, the Minister, and of course the Director of Education and Education officers. It's as airtight as we can get at this time.
So do you know that the Ministry of Education is involving the private schools in this plan?
They have to. They have to. So what they do is pitch to government, they bring it to cabinet, and then have to go quickly to the private sector. But they've done it with their teachers.
The teachers in the private schools.
I don't know.
Oh.
I know they've done it with teachers.
Oh, okay.
That's what I know. But they have to bring it to cabinet to make government aware, and of course they have to engage the private schools.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of installation of hand sanitizers and all these different things, hand washing facilities. So
well,
yeah, it is what it is right now.
It is, but that's also going to be a strain as well in the private schools because they will now have to implement all these additional measures, and maybe that means the fees will be increased.
So our government schools, what they've costed out, what we need to do is just under $2 million.
And how many schools, offhand?
I think it's 14.
14 schools.
Right, I think, right. So we have 4 high schools. I think it's 14 or so schools.
Yeah.
But then you got to remember the different sizes. It wouldn't be an average.
Correct.
But we've got a tag for just under $2 million. For extra security, extra staff, hand sanitizing stations, and to make it COVID-19 ready.
Do you think the government will be able to assist?
I don't know. Yeah, we'd have to see what that looks like. But it was important for us to, even with what we give, to be able to assist because our children are in those private schools.
But we're almost time for questions. But before I go, I remember, I just want to touch on crime a little bit, if that's okay. Yeah. I know you mentioned, when I went to, there was a march, and you mentioned about the spiritual, crime being spiritual. What do you think our spiritual, condition is now?
Sensual.
Sorry?
I said we're sensual.
Oh.
I think all of us. I think we're not at a place that pleases God for sure. People look at. I remember reading a Facebook post from a young lady that was at school in England, and someone read something about Turks and Caicos and said, "Why do you people hate each other so much?" And I try to say to people, social media is open to the world. I think people there are certain spirits, if I can go that way, that are released into the atmosphere right now. They just make it so easy for hate and disrespect and all the things that lead to persons killing each other and being as vindictive as they are and taking people's lives. So I think we've created an atmosphere almost for that. I think it is spiritual because at the end of the day, it is something that's happening around the Caribbean. I went to Barbados the other day, and we were sitting down and we were talking, myself, the Prime Minister, and a couple of others, and she was there saying this 18-year-old who killed 2 persons, his password was Satan. You know, and as real as that, he was 18, nobody could see this coming. You just can't explain behavior like that. And then we had a body that was laying here, not too far from here, heading into the Q-Town area, and there was a video that was put out with the most foul language in a song with hell's flames coming up and saying the devil wants souls. You know, you don't need anything uglier than that to tell you this is spiritual. When our male seed is being killed off, your nation is in trouble. You know, so, and if you go into the prison, I beg people over and over, you know, we've had the COVID-19 measures where we aren't allowing, because the last thing you want is COVID-19 in a prison. But I beg people, because there's such a captive young audience, to visit these young men and reach them where they're at, because they're up there with the same mentality. You know, so we really are in a dark spiritual place, and we really need to pray ourselves out of it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have to pray, and we have to act as well.
We have to. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you, we went to Bermuda. I took the minister and some police officers and our probation officer from social services. And the person that is leading their anti-gang team, I should say, is a bishop. It's a pastor.
So he transformed.
It's a pastor. You know, and those relationships are important. Those relationships are important. So one of the new initiatives we're doing in this budget following Bermuda is we've increased the number of guidance counselors. So you don't have 2 guidance counselors to 500 children. You have a guidance counselor per level. So there's that more one-on-one, and we can identify even there at risk. So we're trying to cut off new, but while we're working on the others, you know. But we have to. We're in a dark spiritual place.
There's a lack of trust as well. A lot of us who also say we're Christians, we're not living the life that we say we are. And people are watching us, and they say, well, if they say they're Christian, my gosh, then who really are Christians? Because the life we live does not reflect what Christian's life should be. And so people just say, well, I'm going to hang out with people who I feel a sense of belonging to.
Or true.
Yeah, or true.
At least them true.
At least I know you are.
At least I
know who you are. You're no
That's
fake.
right.
You're no fake person.
Exactly. You know, but I mean, our grandparents always said this thing, and perhaps my parents say, sometimes the only Bible people read is you. You know, so when people see Christians or pastors or even persons who don't say they're Christians living a particular life and trying to tell them do something else, you know, kids are naturally rebellious. These are the last days anyway. The Bible tells you there's going to be this great disobedience. So let's not lose our way. I mean, and let's not tell people things are going to be hunky-dory, because that's not what the Bible says. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility. My pastor preached on Sunday, you have the salt of the earth. You're necessary. You're absolutely necessary. But wherever you go, you ought to change your space. They ought to feel that light was there. And so we pass a lot of young men. They would tell you, the governor, the superintendent would tell you, oh, she loves the prison. I love the prison, yes. It's a ministry that I engage in. Rex Messam I wish we could put a hall of fame, something in him. You know, I mean, the other people, don't get me wrong, but he faithfully, from the time I was living in Grand Terre, you know, you have people who have that ingrained in them to visit persons. And that's what I think needs, so people can feel that there are people who still love them and still care and are still interested. And I think that would do a world of difference outside of, you know, finding jobs for them when they get back, making sure they have somewhere to live, giving them an opportunity to move on with their lives. You can't punish them forever. And most of the time, while they're onions and just need those layers peeled off, they really want to talk to somebody. They just want to break. They don't want to live like that. Nobody's comfortable living like that. We just need to reach out to them.
Wow, that's another show we need to talk about. I'm serious about that.
Stop me there.
I just want to encourage persons that they could call in. The numbers are 1-900-222-2007. Or if you're calling from a Digicel number, 339-4782. So you have 2 choices, 1-900-222-2007, 339-4782. Any calls? So, Honorable Mayor, I want to go back to the finances in terms of the expenditure, not the capital expenditure, the recurring expenditure. Are there any areas, we say we're not cutting salaries, but are there any areas that you're looking at to cut because of the gap that we experience?
With the withdrawal warrant, we got about 17 million volunteered.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what withdrawal warrant is?
Warrant is, as I explained earlier, is where we look at areas where we can cut the expenditure and we decide we don't need this money anymore, we're not going to spend it, so we've reduced it in that way. So we've reduced it about 20 million, about 17 million or so. So of course, the first thing was local travel.
Yes.
Okay, you know that.
Yes.
Automatically. You could look at office expenses. We weren't in the office for the first quarter, but you don't know what it's going to be like later on. So these are areas you look at. For example, sports. You would see a number of the sporting programs that we had to cancel because of COVID-19.
Yeah, because you don't want that interaction
anyway.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, you have other major events that would have passed on the calendar that that you could cut at this point. But cutting salaries is not a discussion for now. I mean, that's, God help us never to reach to that point. Because at the end of the day, we have a large number of underemployed persons. We don't really want to be adding to that, and no money is spinning and circulating in the economy.
So, I mean, well, would the government consider getting a loan?
No, that's a part of the strategy that was rolled out from March. So we look at credit, looking at financing, the short-term, overdraft facility, if I should say that. As you can imagine, most banks, we've had one bank flat out tell us no. But
no to a loan or for the overdraft facility?
No to the overdraft facility.
Really?
But to loans, most banks look to tie it to a capital program as opposed to recurrent expenditure.
Got it.
So yeah, so that's why we look more at overdraft facility for that.
And we have an overdraft facility now anyway, right?
We got it arranged. We haven't drawn on it. We haven't had a need to as yet. So we look definitely at that. That's part of the strategy as well.
Oh, okay. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Now, that is great from the government side, but now the private side is struggling.
Yep.
Because a lot of us, we have to lay off employees. Unfortunately, I had to lay off one of my employees. Yeah. It was a hard decision to do, and we don't have any unemployment benefits here through national insurance because obviously we do. The rate will have to increase, but we have these private sector businesses who are struggling. Some of them have reopened. They are paying their staff, but they're not getting the income, and they really don't know what to do.
Nobody knows what to do. COVID-19 is having that impact on even America that prints money. A number of businesses have fallen, and geez, I mean, I guess it wasn't too far for Liat, but for the region, we're still mourning that. You know, Liat is a part of the Caribbean. And Liat losses on top of the challenges they have. We've lost the local airline. Now we have a Turks and Caicos airline.
It's a gain for us.
So let me just plug that in there. Fly to friendly skies from TCI.
Right. Yes.
You know, but the truth is, government is not in a position to bail out. You know, one of the things we did in terms of the business sector is, okay, of course, you know, we would have approached banks, because one of the first things when persons came to us and said, well, if we can borrow without all the red tape, we're prepared to do that. So we approached banks. We tried to negotiate that. I know a number of businesses that qualify for it. Our business grant certainly was the support there. We've given waivers and concessions for businesses. One or two business sectors that we have to still look out for. But we've done quite a number of write-offs and concessions and direct cash for small businesses.
Okay, well that's good.
For small businesses, we've done cash for sure. I know persons criticized and said that, what about the big businesses? $5,000 in a big business? I don't think so. You know.
You're right.
Yeah, but it's been. I know of small businesses who said, well, thank you. It made a difference. But we've done what we at the outset. When we looked at employees, we looked at businesses.
And I remember one point too. I remember you had mentioned that the government was looking at because a lot of small businesses, we complain that particularly the larger businesses such as the hotels, they have all these arrangements whereby for any renovations, any work that's being done, for the construction of the condos, they get a concession.
Anybody can qualify if that's put a refurbishment policy, you know.
Oh, we have a call? Okay, we have a call, sorry.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead, caller.
Oh. No, I'm not. Don't let the hurricanes get that idea. God bless you.
Thank you, caller.
I always shy. I definitely will never take credit. I think it's important that we say that God got Turks and Caicos. And I could tell you, even after the hurricanes, if I say that, we peaked in our tourism numbers. That could only be God. You know, so I think God has been extremely great and faithful to Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, and you also, it's not a one person thing either.
No.
It's we have a team of people working together.
An awesome team.
Shout
out to the Special Ministry of Finance.
Oh boy,
the
of
best
course,
ministry.
Of course, that's my background. So
no, honestly, we have some really great persons that surround us.
They're in the back, and they're doing a lot of work.
I don't know why they like the back so much, because I always try to pull people out to the front,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not a kind people, so sometimes people like to stay in the back in case people decide they're gonna flip on you the same night and tear you apart.
Yeah.
But we do have some really good persons. I have a very, very, very strong team in the Ministry of Finance.
I believe you do. I think you do.
Excellent.
I want to go back to, you say anyone qualifies for the
refurbishment.
The refurbishment?
So it has to be tourism. It's a tourism related. So if you're even a small business, and it looks at imports, but it's accommodations. So I've had a local hotel that has applied for it already. Local, okay, living.
Okay, we have another caller. Sorry. Go ahead, caller. Good afternoon. How do you want to do that? You want the 3 questions one time, or one
If
at
I
a
can
time?
remember them.
You know what? Do one at a time. So yeah.
No, probably let him ask so he can. Okay, that's fine. So if he may have a follow-up question, Mr. Speaker, you may have a supplementary. So the public will know that as soon as we would have cleared the Integrity Commission. Persons are there by virtue of the areas they're in. So it is not so much named individuals as it is named sectors. So it was approved in Cabinet, but we have to get clearance from the Integrity Commission on how we approach the membership.
So it's not the private, there are no private sector individuals?
Absolutely. It's across the board, public and private.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying the different sectors. So there's infrastructure, there's telecommunications, there's food security, all that. So I'm waiting on official correspondence from the UK. I would have gotten something from my office. I spoke to him already. I have briefed him, but I'd like to have the correspondence in hand. Official response from the UK. So I did go through it with him.
So you can't share something with us like that? Now I'm asking the Premier if she could shed some light on anything. I know she's waiting on the correspondence, but can she at least give us some tips?
So when I would have met officially with the opposition and the chair of that committee, I would be happy to. It's not a government thing, So it is something that we did together, and I'm not going to come out singly ahead on it. But what I can say, as I said the other day, there's been one or two concessions, but of course there are more questions. This is the beginning of the conversation.
Okay, you're joining dialogue right now.
Correct. That's what it is. Government will not provide the money. It will be a benefit under the National Insurance Scheme. First. Secondly, the actuarial assessment that was done in 2018 did look at an unemployment benefit, so it wouldn't be correct to say it didn't address that. It did propose a rate increase, as I reported in the budget address and as I reported in December 2019. We did discuss it, as I said yesterday in my press conference, that we would discuss it in cabinet yesterday, and we did discuss it, and the communique will show you the end result. And we have to move a legislative amendment, and we will have further discussion on it there. But there was wide consultation. It was done last year. The report I did in 2019 told you that the majority of the persons who attended the consultations was in support of it. And the delay in implementing it from CCIG, as I've reported several times, was that it recommended a 1% increase. The 9th actuarial assessment for the entire fund also recommended a rate increase. And the National Health Insurance Board, their actuarial assessment also recommended a rate increase. And we had to take all of those and look at them together, because that is a serious impact. And that's why we had delayed the introduction of the unemployment, while we look at those two schemes. So we did discuss it in cabinet yesterday. So that's what the actual assessment does. It tells you what a rate should be introduced, based, of course, on the numbers at that time. Then we look at the actuary actually was working along with National Insurance while National Insurance was having its discussion with government. So even as that paper came to cabinet, it was refreshed, so it's not 2018. It's not that old anymore. But persons who become unemployed, remember, if we're doing it in response to COVID-19, we're not looking at your last contributions. We're looking at a matter of what will allow you a certain amount of weeks. And it will have to be way outside the COVID-19 period, if I should put it that way, because there are persons who are now unemployed for the last 3 months. You can't say you got to be contributing. So you have to look at that.
Thank you, caller. I just want to repeat the questions, because the callers on Facebook could not hear the question.
Oh.
So you may know the question by the response that the Premier has given. The last question was more or less about the unemployment benefits that the Premier mentioned, and the caller was saying he is not comfortable with the agreed 1%. He thinks it will not be able to cover employees, especially given a lot of them are unemployed, and the Premier has responded to that. The caller also asked the Premier to list the Economic Council members. The Premier said that's going through the process through the Integrity Commission. Am I correct?
To get their position as to how we ought to treat those members.
Right. And the second question I can't remember what the second question was. Do you remember what the second question was? But anyway, what I'll do when questions come in, I'll repeat it before the Premier response because somehow we're having a technical issue with persons hearing it on Facebook.
Constitutional issues. He asked if I can share on the constitutional issues.
Yes. Any other? Okay. Now, Premier.
So let me just delve on that again because I want persons to appreciate the work of the actuarial assessment. They look at the fund generally. They would look at the rate. As you would appreciate, national insurance will tell you it has over 300 million, but they don't have enough. It's underfunded. So there will never be a rate at this point that covers all of the benefits. Saying that we would look at an unemployment benefit without the rate increase as a response to COVID-19, we know there has to be some special arrangement. So I would just leave it at that for the caller. But this is an actuarially assessed benefit. They look at the rates, they look overall at the fund, they look at the numbers, and they make recommendations.
Now, I also want to talk about the national health because what is happening to Madam Premier, because a lot of people are unemployed or furloughed, that's the right word, right? What they're doing, they're paying the minimum national health, which I think is $50. And so because they're not paying more than what they were paying when persons were fully employed, that will put a hole into the national health budget as well. And that means the government will now have to
continue to bail it out as it normally does. But the truth is, persons who are unemployed, or one of the reasons again, I beg persons to register at Labor Department is because they are continue to be covered under the program. So those who have been put on this furlough, we find that a number of the employers continue to pay their NIB and NHIB. I don't know at what rate. I can't honestly say to you whether it's $50 or what rate they are continuing to pay. So that brings some money into the scheme. But this is what people have to understand. The truth is there's fallout all around. And it's probably going to be immeasurable for a very long time. So we do recognize that there's reduced earnings coming for NHIB and NIB.
Okay. Now, say someone gets a work permit, right, and they're coming into the country, and will they automatically be able to use the hospital facilities immediately after they are on national health? Now I know it was changed whereby they cannot access the overseas medical treatment, but I'm just saying, given what we're going through COVID-19 and people coming to the country, visitors coming to the country, they must show insurance, and of course you must have your testing 5 days. But new employees coming to the country, somehow they seem to get their stuff done, some of them, before they arrive in the country. But will they be able to access the hospital, or they have to be have private insurance for a couple of months? Are you aware?
Honestly, I don't know the detail, but I think almost immediately once you're registered,
and start paying.
They start paying. Now you should remember that you were the former chair.
I am 50 years old.
You're 50?
I may forget.
Okay. I forgive you. Seniority is a thing. But on and it seems unfair because remember we paid 6 months before we were able to tap into the benefit. But I'm almost confident, though I didn't pay attention to that detail, that once they're registered, they do get benefits.
Okay. I just want to remind our callers the numbers are 1-900-222-2007 or 339-4782. That's 1-900-222-2007 or 339-4782. We have a few more minutes left. We should be wrapping up around 7:30, and hopefully you could call in between now and 7:30. We have another call. Go ahead, caller. I'll repeat the question. Hello? Good afternoon. All right. Mhm.
Right away.
All right, thank you, caller. Now, I will repeat the question because we're having issues with the Facebook viewers. The question to the Premier is, the financial services industry, we need more Turks and Caicos Islanders involved. Will the government participate more in getting Turks and Caicos Islanders involved? The head of the industry is headed by a non-Turks and Caicos Islander. The board of the Commission for the Financial Service Commission, all of them are non-Turks and Caicos Islanders except for one. And there are hardly any Turks and Caicos Islanders at the top or involved. What will the government do to ensure that the Financial Services Commission have more Turks and Caicos Islanders participating in it?
So I will start with the first statement that the caller made, that this government nor the one before paid any attention to Financial Services Commission. That's a faulty foundation. That is absolutely untrue. We would have come into office saying that we will review the financial services. If you look at the change document, it says we will review the financial services sector with a view to making it a strong second. Of course, our pathway got knocked off with 2 hurricanes. Immediately after the hurricanes, we commissioned an in-depth review of the sector with the financial services sector. KPMG won the bid. KPMG carried out the full review, included recommendations. I appointed a working group, Turks and Caicos Islanders, of course, leaders in the sector. They report to me. I also had a full review of the financial services report presented to Cabinet. It was presented to the private sector. It was presented to the Financial Services Commission. All of their input came even after that. Cabinet agreed a set of recommendations. Last year's TC Invest conference focused on the financial services sector. Persons who attended that were excited because they said they've never seen a government in recent times so interested in the financial services sector, and they welcomed our participation. Though we recognize that government, we didn't take the path as BVI and the rest of them with our Ministry of Finance, that we're regulators. I've been more involved in the financial services sector than probably any other because we've been running away from being blacklisted, from having our public registers. So more than anything, you'll see even in cabinet and in the House of Assembly, a slew of legislation just trying to keep us out of trouble. So I've been more engaged with the private sector and the financial services sector perhaps than any other minister by that, other than the intentional work that we've done. After we would have agreed the recommendations, we would have taken it to this forum last year, and that would have been TC Invest annual conference they do. The sole topic was the study, to hear from persons on the floor. We hired someone at financial services at Invest TC, who will help with the private sector in terms of marketing. So the recommendations call for about $500,000 in cash injection. We did $250,000 towards the marketing immediately, and it's a young man, Benjamin Durham. We extended his time recently. In fact, you would have just seen him wrote an article as well. He's the point person for us. It's private sector driven. People have to be absolutely clear about the role of government. Would we give scholarships today? We'd give scholarships yesterday for Turks and Caicos Islanders who want to go in any area in the financial services sector. We included them and an increase in the number of areas that we give scholarships. Again, a part of, and if you attended the conference last year, you would hear persons speak to the mentorship and the built-in mentorship program that we would want to have, while they look at lengthening work permits for persons who we want to attract, and the number of licenses we probably would want to give per year, and make sure that Turks and Caicos Islanders are involved. So that's all a part of the recommendations that have been publicly shared with the entire financial services sector. So it is absolutely not so that this government, like the previous government, did nothing. We've done more with the financial services in terms of digging into with tourism. Tourism carries itself. Tourism would have already had its study done, strange enough, by the same firm. But this is all groundwork that we've done, and we're growing. So now it's the private sector that looks for us, that tells us what is a good niche market for us to enter. Where can we grow? What new product can we bring? And then government brings that legislation. Government brings a concession package. So it is private sector driven with, yes, a facilitating role or regulating role of government, and we stand ready. That's why we invested the monies we have.
I think what's happening, though, I think people want to see more physical evidence that something is happening. You know, the legislation's being passed, we're doing all this stuff, but they're not seeing any expansion. And I think that's
not going to happen tomorrow. Remember, this is marketing. You go out to these different areas, and it's private. I can't say it enough. Government does not go out and bring in business and create them. We join up with private sector who will bring a bank here. Yes, I've been asking for a U.S. bank to come here. I've put that out there. But you have businesses that want to expand, or major firms that are coming, accounting firms or law firms and all of those. So you create the attractive policies. And I think what people are craving for, yourself and the caller, is what we let pass us when BVI and the others take it under their ministerial portfolio. And I think we're there. I think we need to have a ministry that's responsible directly for it.
We'll come back to that, but we have a caller right now. Go ahead, caller. Evening. Caller? Yes, we can hear you now. So are you, okay, caller, are you asking if the government should make it mandatory that all employers put aside a percentage of the employee's income into a national pension scheme? Is that the question you're trying to get at? Or the government should do something separate from national insurance? Okay. 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 Okay, caller. I will repeat the question for those persons who cannot hear the question. The caller called in. He was saying there's frustration in the financial services industry because the banks take a very long time to even open a bank account, and there are so many different fees on your bank statement at the end of each month. Who's regulating that? But the main question the caller called about is that he wants to know if the premier and the government will consider implementing a national pension scheme other than national insurance, whereby it is mandatory that employers take a percentage of the employee's salary, put into a scheme, and the government makes it mandatory, different from national insurance. And so the call is saying, do not touch national insurance, don't increase the rate. We're not getting much from it anyway. So let's do another scheme. Premier?
You get out of national insurance what you put in, first of all. Secondly, national insurance is not just about end of life benefits, if I should put it that way. There's many other benefits in the national insurance scheme. I mean, this is a question that I can tell you I've never been asked. I can't imagine. I don't know if the question, the person who posed the question is suggesting that we remove the pension from national insurance and create a separate fund altogether, or we run both of them together. So let me say this though. Everywhere in the world, they'll tell you one Social Security is not enough for retirement. It tells you at least 3 different things you need for retirement, and one of those includes savings. No Social Security gives you enough to live on, and that is a fact. So I agree with him on that. I can't imagine having national insurance being deducted for already including pension, sickness, survivor's pension, and all the other benefits, having national health insurance deducted for health purposes, and then a further deduction. I can't imagine that. So I can't wrap my mind around that right now. I think you would have a major pushback. I think nothing in law stops a company or even workers themselves through the credit union or through their 401k program for doing a separate pension. You don't need government to involve you in that.
Yeah.
You already have the employer, first of all, contributing to your pension in the national insurance. So to ask them to contribute to another pension scheme, that has to be a contractual arrangement.
Yeah.
That really just takes up the cost of services, the cost of, and a lot of times people don't appreciate when you add these things to businesses, whatever they're selling or serving, that price just gone up. And people keep saying, so we're struggling to complete this cost of living survey, which is very, very important, especially in COVID-19 and trying to complete it. But every time persons say we have to increase the minimum wage, We have to increase the minimum wage. There's certain things that you have to do as you look at that, because when you increase the minimum wage and that worker, that employer then has to pay more, there's goods and services goes up again. So your costs goes up anyway. So you have to do certain things together. That's why you have to do it according to the statisticians and economists. So I want persons to appreciate that we already have an onus, it's already a responsibility of the employer to contribute to national insurance for your pension, your survivor's pension, your sickness benefit, your maternity benefit, all of that. You already have the employer contributing to health insurance, and nothing, absolutely nothing, stops employers and employees from engaging in that.
Yeah. Now, I know the Cayman Islands, as far as I could recall, they do not have a national insurance scheme, but they made it mandatory for employers to have a pension scheme for the employees. And there are, believe it or not, there are some private companies right in Turks and Caicos
I know.
that are providing a pension for their the employees. I mean, I used to work at Cayman Islands. I didn't contribute anything, but 5% of my salary every month was put into a pension scheme. Cayman Islands just did it from the generous of their heart, whatever you want to say. There are other companies doing it as well.
They do.
So I don't know, maybe that's what the caller is saying. I mean, I agree with you. We can't have both. We either,
right.
You know, we shouldn't make it mandatory for national insurance and to have the private sector also do it. I think we should either have one or the other. Or you can have both, but don't make it mandatory.
But you can't
it's optional.
Both. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. You can't have both. So if Cayman doesn't have national insurance, then that's fine.
Yes.
But you definitely can't have the employer contributing to 3 different things like that, especially 2 pensions.
You have another caller? Okay. There is a question. What about Beaches Hotel closure? How about the workers? They need to, okay, basically they're saying Beaches closed. How will the workers get money to pay the bills? And buying food, the governor needs to talk to them. I think this question is more or less asking what will happen to the workers at Beaches, since Beaches is not opening until October 14th. How will they survive?
Okay, so I have not had that conversation with Beaches. I know they're meeting with their staff, and it was important for them to do that first. I know they've been talking to labor. They've definitely been speaking to labor, but I don't have that report as yet. But Beaches has closed traditionally this period. I don't know how they used to do it. I know COVID-19 is a different scenario, but I'm waiting to get the report on how they're going to be treating their employees, in particular their work permit holders. That's of interest to us as well. So if you are going to be unemployed as a work permit holder, then the law does not allow you to remain in country. So we need to get a report from Beaches. They've been tight-lipped. None of the staff has even said to me what has been communicated to them as yet. So I'm waiting to get that. But they are working with labor.
But what if a work permit holder has an active work permit, even though they're not working, but they have an active work permit?
Can they take care of themselves? Gainfully employed?
So that I'm just asking. I do not know.
If they are gainfully employed, if they have an active work permit and they are taking care of themselves, fine. But if they're here with an active work permit, that's a totally different story.
And not working.
And not working. Because then what happens? They become the responsibility through some social program.
Well, the social programs do not take care of work permit holders.
Exactly.
We may have social issues because
They're
these workers are not employed and they may end up stealing and doing other things.
I didn't want to say that. Let the record reflect that the host of this show has said that.
I said it. I'm not afraid to say that.
No, I'm saying
I'm not afraid to say that. If we have people unemployed in the country,
you know how that will go. They said the premier will be saying the work permit holders will be here stealing and doing all kind of things. It's better the host say that.
Okay, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. But
no, but on a very serious note, it is very important for us that we had a brief discussion about it. It's important to know because they are the second largest employer only to government. And we would have keen interest in understanding what happens to, of course, the Turks and Caicos Islanders, but definitely the work permit holders as well.
We have one more caller? It's on now? Okay, this is the last call? This is the last call. Go ahead, caller.
Oh my God, I wish it were yesterday.
That's it, Mr. Hall?
I think you should write the ministry in particular and ask them, and you can also ask them if the premier who would host in your absence expressions, how badly she wants it to come back on.
Okay, so those who are listening out there, the question that came in was, when will the people's government restore expressions? And the premier said she wished it could happen right now.
Yesterday.
And she told the caller to write into the ministry. Which ministry is that?
Home Affairs.
Home Affairs. Who's the minister for that?
Honorable Gloria Ewing.
Okay.
Or you could ask the director who right here and ask them when they're coming back.
Wait a minute, I need to know. So it's
I wouldn't do that to the public servant.
Okay, so expressions is on hold waiting.
So expressions was not cancelled by the premier. I know people in this country believe I have more than 24 hours in my day and that I'm involved in everything. And
micromanage?
That I have all my I wish I could micromanage. I mean, I'll be superwoman. I should put an S on my chest. You know, but at the end of the day, I have very competent ministers. They do run their own ministries. There's been a challenge in that area. As far as I'm concerned, I think expressions and all shows that allow people to speak. Any government, I maintain, that does not want to hear from people is a government doomed to fail. Because even in criticism, you have to see what you can take out of that. And if people notice the trend with us, if persons say they haven't paid attention to that phone, oh good, this week we were missing that, let's go do something with the phone. That's how you respond. You have to be a government that governs close to the people.
So who did the press release saying that it's under review? Where did that press release come from?
That would have been the Ministry of Home Affairs.
So we're waiting on the Home Affairs Minister
now to get that.
Yeah, but I'm
sure they'll get it together very quickly. I'm hoping.
The elections are coming up, so...
But there's nothing stopping another show either. Well, I mean, Facebook has taken over on all the shows.
Facebook suddenly has.
Yeah. But I just think it's very important for people to have an outlet always to express themselves.
Okay. Well, you heard that from the premier. You didn't hear that from the host.
Then let the record reflect that it was me who said it.
Do we have another caller? Okay. Well, you have been listening to Sit Down with the Honorable Premier, the Honorable Sharlene Cartwright-Robinson, on this special hour here in RTC. We also heard from Dr. Virginia about the impending storm, which is expected to arrive on the island on Thursday. And please be prepared. We've seen what happened in the past when you're not prepared. It was almost called Dr. Cartwright. Oh.
I don't know about doctor. The sad thing about the time that the storm has come, my mom is turning 80 on Friday.
Oh,
and yes,
the 31st.
I feel like I'm turning 80, so it's really going to be cramping our style. But at the end of the day, I really want to emphasize the need for persons to appreciate if they are in a flood-prone area. Secure, of course, as much as you possibly can, but also be prepared to move. We always have to take that into account. People always believe that flooding wouldn't be that bad in Turks and Caicos, but again, we've seen it. Especially Cristobal is still fresh in a lot of our minds, so we have to pay keen attention to DDME's advice.
There's one question. I believe you addressed this already. Maybe the caller came in late. The question is, what about Turks and Caicos Islanders people that don't have jobs? What is the government doing about that?
The government is waiting for a number of you to continue to register. So we're creating programs around the numbers that we're having registered at the Labor Department. We wouldn't know you don't have a job, though we would have gotten it from the employer, unless you register and say you are looking for a job. So that's how we determine that.
Do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, I want you to pay attention to DDME's advice. I don't want to lose track of that. Honestly, it's very important that we pay attention. This storm is coming fast. I don't want us to be caught off guard. Make arrangements to be off the road, to do what you have to do, and be able to ride it out. But again, this presents the challenges that we have in these small island states. So even though we are going through COVID-19 pandemic, this is the hurricane season. And I don't remember in my lifetime a hurricane in July or a tropical storm of this. Anyway, I think it's always been August or the first week of September. So things are different. We look at Dorian last year in the Bahamas and think of storm surge, and we're focusing our minds on that. But I didn't think in July we'd be focusing on tropical storms. But this is how the weather is. The system is changing. Climate change is real. We're doing some real work in that area, and we want persons to be prepared.
And this is the season.
And the peak is not till the middle of August until October.
Yeah. I mean, from June to November is the hurricane season, so we can expect anything,
At any time.
during that time.
Yes.
Well, thanks again, Honorable Premier, and thanks to all of those who have been listening to this special show. The show will be saved on RTC page, so you can always go back and listen to the show. Those who haven't listened to it yet, you let them know that they could listen to the show again. Thanks again. You've been listening to Sit Down with the Honorable Premier, Honorable Sharlene Cartwright-Robinson. Thanks again. Have a wonderful week. That went by fast, it was an hour and a half, That went by fast. Thank you, Honorable Premier.
Honorable Premier, thank you so much for your time.